What's up guys, it's Austin and welcome back to Ultimate Halo. Now today we're going to be doing another lore session, and this one is over the infamous Jul Mdama. Jul Mdama, the Didact's Hand, former shipmaster during the Human Covenant War and supreme commander of the most powerful Covenant remnant in the post-war. Jul has been the UNSC's highest valued target since the Covenant War. But who is Jul Mdama, and how did he come to lead this powerful remnant? This is the short story of Jul Mdama. In his early life, Jul Mdama was born on March 5, 2489 in Mdama State on the elite homeworld of Sanghelios. When he had matured to adulthood, he became an elder of the Bakan Keep in Mdama, marrying his wife Raya Mdama and having two sons, Dural and Assum. During the war, Jul served as a shipmaster within the Covenant, commanding a cruiser against humanity until the ceasefire in 2553. Back on Sanghelios, the idea of a human alliance has struck the Sangheli into opposing parties, those who support the alliance with humanity, and those who do not. Those who supported a human alliance, Sangheli such as Radasvaram and the Arbiter, were opposed heavily by various groups that made up the majority of the Sangheli population. Among those who opposed the Arbiter and humanity was Bakan elder Jul Mdama. Shortly after the ceasefire in 2553, Jul returned to Bakan Keep, his loving wife, and his duties as Bakan elder. Jul often compared humanity to the Flood, calling them parasitic and destructive in nature, so it was no surprise that he aggressively opposed the alliance with the humans. While attending a meeting among Kaidans and the Arbiter, Jul admitted that he would rather exterminate the humans while they were reconstructing, rather than create peace between the two races as the Arbiter wished to do. Opposing the Arbiter in his endeavors for peace, Jul and his fellow shipmaster Forze Mdama decided among themselves that humanity had to be stopped. Jul met privately with the Kaidan of Mdama, Levu Mdama. While the Kaidan did agree that the humans were a threat to the Sangheli, he also understood that the Sangheli didn't have the resources required to exterminate humanity, and saw peace as an easier and superior alternative. Jul then turned to a Sangheli named Avu Med Talkam, leader of the Servants of the Abiding Truth, a terrorist group hell-bent on opposing the Arbiter and humanity. After being inaugurated into the group, Jul and a number of other shipmasters traveled to the NR shipyard to steal a former Covenant frigate, the Unflinching Resolve. After simply telling the dockmaster that they were retrofitting the frigate, Jul and his companions stole the Unflinching Resolve and hid it in a quarry near Bakan Keep. Uncertain of the ship's safety, Jul suggested that they should hide the frigate on the planet of Telkam's weapons supplier. Telkam immediately shut down the proposition, refusing to inform Jul of neither the location of the planet nor the identity of the supplier. Now curious to discover why Telkam is hiding the identity of his supplier, Jul follows Telkam to the planet known as New Lanali, where he was kidnapped by Oni Black Ops Team Kilo 5. Aboard the UNSC Port Stanley, Jul awakens from his blackout and is interrogated by Dr. Evan Phillips and the ship's AI, Black Box. Reluctant to speak to neither the human nor the AI, Jul remains near silent until he is transferred to the Forerunner shield world called Trivlion, previously known as Onyx. On Trivlion, Jul plans his escape from the shield world while being monitored and tested by Dr. Irina Magnuson. As the subject for the Oni sabotage operation, Jul was forced to eat a variety of genetically modified crop that grows naturally on Sanghelios. Although Jul no longer worshipped the Forerunners as gods, he continued to act as if he did, so he would be allowed to visit various Forerunner structures under the supervision of a Huragok engineer named Prone to Drift. His frequent visits to the Forerunner structures allowed Jul to learn of the ancient Forerunner, the Didact, and how he was alive and imprisoned on the Forerunner shield world of Requiem, but was never able to learn the location of Requiem in the galaxy. Jul also came to learn of Oni's sabotage operation, and how they planned to infect and poison the crops of Sanghelios in order to weaken the population. After regaining his strength that had been suppressed by the poison crop, Jul forced the Huragok to remove his explosive harness and to allow him through a malfunctioning portal on one of his visits to the Forerunner structures. After exiting the portal, Jul found himself on the Sangheli colony of Hesduros, a planet that had not been aware of the Great Schism and the ceasefire with humanity. Shortly after his arrival, Jul learned of the death of his wife Raya and the civil war that was raging on St. Helios. Blinded by his anger, Jul blamed the death of his wife on humanity and vowed to destroy them by any means necessary. Over time, Jul convinced the people of Hesderos that his journey on Trevelyan was a religious feat and that he himself was a prophet. Jul then discovered the coordinates set in a forerunner structure on Hesderos and embarked to the coordinates with his newly acquired fleet of disciples. The set of coordinates led Jul and his fleet to the forerunner planet named Requiem. Despite their best efforts, Jul and his fleet were never able to enter the planet. In 2557, after 3 years of unsuccessfully attempting to enter the forerunner shield world of Requiem, Jul's fleet detected the UNSC frigate Forward Unto Dawn enter the system heading towards Requiem. Jul ordered troops to board the vessel and keep the humans away from the planet, but to no avail. Shortly after its arrival, Requiem began scanning the vessel and opened its outer shell as the Forward Unto Dawn came into the planet's orbit. Unable to avoid the planet's gravity well, Jul and his fleet were sucked into the outer shell of Requiem. Shortly after entering the shield world, Jul's fleet found Requiem's core, where they quickly began engaging Promethean knights on the ground. Jul himself was involved in the ground combat, engaging Promethean knights around a Forerunner cryptum before it suddenly began opening. When the combat ceased, Jul recognized the didact being released from the cryptum and dropped to his knee along with the rest of his remnant. After this release, Jul's covenant and the Promethean knights began cooperating, working together to suppress the human presence that had just entered Requiem aboard the UNSC Infinity. When the Mantles approach, the didact's personal flagship, left for Ivanov Station, a portion of Jul's fleet accompanied the didact to the station, but it is unknown if Jul left with the didact or remained on Requiem. After the didact's departure, Jul Mdama continued to lead the Covenant and Promethean presence on Requiem, uncontested by UNSC forces. 8 months after the attack on New Phoenix, the UNSC returned to Requiem in force, contesting Jul for control of the shield world. After the UNSC successfully recovered a Forerunner artifact, a UNSC scientist by the name of Henry Glassman was unwillingly teleported down to the surface of Requiem after investigating the relic by touching its surface. Jul then put Glassman to work, forcing him to reactivate a Forerunner shrine that he had correctly assumed contained the essence of a Forerunner, known as the Librarian. Shortly after the loss of Fireteam Castle, the UNSC began sending Spartan teams to pursue and kill Jul on Requiem. Following him through a multitude of Forerunner portals, Fireteam Crimson was able to recover another Forerunner artifact that had been dropped by Jul in his attempt to flee from the Spartans. It was later discovered that the device had been dropped on purpose, and that Jul was using the artifact to communicate with Dr. Catherine Halsey aboard the UNSC Infinity. Back at the Forerunner Shrine, Dr. Glassman is able to activate something within the shrine, causing all the Sangheli in the room to bow towards the shrine. When Jul reaches out to activate it, he is rejected and focuses his rage on Dr. Glassman, who had escaped while Jul was distracted. Furious with his guard's inability to notice Glassman leaving the room, Jul is assured by his second-in-command, Gek Lahar, who promises to deal with the scientist swiftly and individually, leaving Jul and his guards within the shrine room. Unwilling to recapture Glassman, Jul contacts Dr. Halsey aboard the UNSC Infinity, and learns that she is willing to help him open the shrine and make contact with the Librarian. After their conversation comes to a sudden end, Jul orders both Covenant and Promethean forces to board the Infinity and retrieve Dr. Halsey. Soon after her arrival, Dr. Halsey was able to deactivate the shield that had been erected around the shrine. To Jul's surprise, when the shield was lowered, Halsey ran into the beam of light and confronted the Librarian by herself. When Halsey was ejected from the shrine, Jul caught her in his arms and removed one half of the Janus key from her possession, believing that the piece was the whole relic. Again to his surprise, Fireteam Majestic infiltrated the shrine room and began executing Jul's forces. Jul then summoned Promethean Knights to protect him and Dr. Halsey as they escaped from the shrine room. Amidst the combat, Jul witnessed as Halsey threw the other half of the key to Spartan Gabriel Thorne just before she was shot in the arm by Commander Sarah Palmer. What a bitch. Following this, Jul sent Requiem on a collision course with the Requiem's sun, announcing that anyone who remained behind would die with the planet. Shortly after the destruction of Requiem, Jul learned of the Janus key's purpose and threatened to murder Halsey for giving the UNSC the other half of the key. Reluctantly, Jul asked Halsey what she wanted for her compliance in retrieving the other half of the key, to which she simply replied,
"That's easy, Jul. I want revenge."
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out our channel for all of our other awesome content and make sure you subscribe. I'll see you next time, guys. And as Wang Time would say, safe.